Hi biologists. Let's start by looking at the learning objectives for this lesson. At the end of this section, and following the biology syllabus, you should be able to describe waste management, the problems associated with waste disposal, and the importance of minimising waste. You should also be able to describe how microorganisms can be used in waste management and pollution control. What does this actually mean? What are we trying to understand? It is pretty straightforward. We have to be able to describe how we manage waste, discuss the problems associated with disposing of waste, and highlight the importance of minimising or cutting down on waste. In particular, we have to describe and focus our interest on how microorganisms can be used in waste management and help prevent excessive pollution. Right, let's go. Humans have a big impact on ecosystems and even on the planet or biosphere as a whole. The effects are so big that they can be seen with satellite images from space. We have to show the human impact on the ecosystem by considering pollution, conservation, and waste management. Therefore, we need to look at each one of these in turn. Waste management. Modern life produces large amounts of waste material. It is important to manage these wastes wisely in order to conserve the environment and prevent pollution. Therefore, waste management involves preventing pollution, conserving the environment, and last but not least, recycling. Examples of waste management. Well, we have to look at examples of waste management in agriculture, in fisheries, and in forestry. The most important idea or concept in each case is that the waste is recycled in a safe manner. As we go down through these examples, we're going to keep three things in mind. We're going to identify the waste, we're going to say how pollution is prevented, and we're going to mention how the waste is recycled. So, our first example is waste management in agriculture. The waste concerned is slurry. Slurry is liquefied waste produced by animals. In other words, it's watery number twos. Now we have to talk about how we prevent pollution. Well, if the slurry gets into rivers or lakes, it'll cause algae to grow. Or in other words, you'll get increased plant growth in the river. Now this can lead to fish kills. The plants don't kill the fish. But what happens is bacteria and algae grow very rapidly because of the nutrient-rich sewage. This uses up all the oxygen in the water because the bacteria and algae need it for respiration. This will make the water inhabitable for fish. They will be short of oxygen and they will die. So how do we prevent this waste? How do we manage it? How do we stop pollution? Well, what has to be done is that the slurry has to be stored in waterproof pits or in slurry tanks. It is then recycled by spreading on the land and it is used as a fertilizer. Waste management in fisheries. Again, what is the waste? Well, the waste would be fish heads, tails, fins, blood, and dead fish. These wastes are produced as a result of processing the food, processing the fish for the customers. How do we prevent pollution by these wastes? Well, the wastes are neutralised by using formic acid. They are then recycled because they're pulped and dried. Anyone familiar with pulp nuts will realise that pulp nuts are fed to livestock. So this waste is pulped and dried and recycled, and it can be used as fertiliser or pig feed. Waste management in forestries. Again, focus on what is the waste, how do we prevent pollution, and how is it recycled. In this case, the waste is tree tops, small branches, tree stumps, roots, and sawdust. Now, how do we prevent pollution by these wastes? Well, small branches and stumps and roots are left to rot naturally in the forest. Other wastes are recycled to form MDF or chipboard. Both of these woods are particle woods, they're artificial woods, they're artificially manufactured. Now for our next objective. We have to be able to discuss waste disposal problems. What problems do we have with disposing or getting rid of waste? Well, the first problem is that there are microorganisms in waste which can cause disease. These microorganisms can be disease-causing bacteria or pathogens. Waste can also contain toxic chemicals. The toxic chemicals could leach or seep into our drinking water, or what can happen is that the plants would absorb the toxic chemicals, and as a result the toxic chemicals would become part of the food chain. The waste could also cause eutrophication of rivers and lakes, leading to fish kills. Now, as we discussed already, the addition of nutrients or the addition of slurry to fresh water is called eutrophication. The eutrophication causes increased algal growth, or in other words, algal blooms. Now, when the algae die, obviously the algae or the plants don't kill the fish, but when they die, they are decomposed by bacteria. The bacteria of decay need oxygen, so they will absorb oxygen and the water will become depleted or short in oxygen. And as a result, the fish will die because they will not have enough. Another problem is that landfill sites, aka dumps, are usually ugly, smelly, and attract furry friends, and also have the problem of the NIMBY issue. NIMBY refers to not in my backyard. So nobody wants to have a dump near them. So when the councils want to site dumps, they often encounter a lot of issues with regard to protests, etc. Dumping waste at sea can also cause pollution at sea. And if we build incinerators to burn the waste, incinerators quite often can release toxic fumes. These are the main problems associated with waste disposal. What part do microorganisms play in waste management? Well, microorganisms break down the organic matter or the biodegradable matter. Biodegradable matter is material that can be rotted down by bacteria or other microorganisms. We are interested in particular in the role of microorganisms in landfill sites and in sewage treatment, and we also must keep in mind their role in preventing pollution in these areas. Landfill sites. Well, in landfill sites, the waste is covered in soil, and soil bacteria and fungi will break down the biodegradable or organic waste, and then it is safely recycled. Bacteria or other microorganisms are also used in sewage treatment and help to prevent pollution here. Bacteria and fungi break down the solid waste or the sludge in enclosed tanks. The bacteria and the fungi also break down the liquid waste. This tends to take place in open tanks. Both of these examples demonstrate the use of microorganisms in the prevention of pollution. The last thought to keep in mind with regard to waste management is the importance of minimising waste. Waste minimisation, or cutting down on waste, involves the 3 R's. The first R is reduce. Reduce means cut down, lessen. So we need to keep this key word in mind when we're considering reduce. Reducing can refer to reducing the consumption of unnecessary goods. Do you really need that item you are buying, or can you do without it? Do you really need a plastic straw to drink your mineral? Another important factor to keep in mind with regard to reducing waste is, can we reduce packaging? We can see this in our everyday lives when Easter eggs went from having 3 and 4 different types of packaging to now barely being wrapped in tin foil. This is a reduction in packaging and helps to minimise waste. Reuse. Reuse is often misunderstood. Reuse means, can you reuse or use again as many objects as you possibly can and as much as you can? Can you reuse your plastic bags when you go shopping? Can you reuse jam jars as pen holders on your study desk at home? Can you bring your clothes to charity shops instead of throwing them away? The third R is recycle. Again, recycle is slightly misunderstood. The idea behind recycling is that you convert or you change the waste into reusable materials, so that materials like plastic and glass and metal and paper can now be gathered up and turned into something usable. So perhaps that plastic lunchbox of yours might end up as a garden chair. Now that we have arrived at the end of the lesson, have we achieved our objective? Can you describe waste management, the problems associated with waste disposal, and the importance of minimising waste? Can you describe how microorganisms can be used in waste management and pollution control?